Red Glass by Laura Resau. Chapter 3. Dika's Boyfriend. Back when Pablo first arrived, Dika decided he should learn to swim. Or at least, that was her excuse for sneaking into the pool at the apartment complex down the street. So, except for the cold months, November, December, and January, we spent every afternoon at the pool. Dika's daily schedule was collect broken pieces of colored glass at sunrise, work at the Salvation Army in the morning, and once Pablo and I got home from school, lounge at the pool. She wore a bright blue sarong over her turquoise bikini. She placed her bag by the lounge chair, slipped off her sarong seductively, and settled in the chair. There she lay, her legs like two whales, one bent coquettishly. She would examine her body and check her tan lines pleased. If anyone else was there, she'd show off the tan lines to them, too. "My friends in Germany should to see me now. There is snowy and cold and gray. Look at this sky, so much blue." Germany is where she had asylum after she left Bosnia and the war. She spread baby oil on her legs, arm, stomach. It took forever, this process. There was so much flesh to cover, and she went over every area twice, 3 times if a man was there. She wore a blue headband that pushed back her orangish hair, which showed the gray roots. Then her eyes closed and a smile spread over her face. A woman of leisure. The only thing that set her apart from a lady of questionable taste on a resort vacation was the series of 3 thick, shiny scars on her left inner arm. A relic from the war prison camp, Mom told me. All Dika had said about the camp was that she ate raw onions for 3 straight months, and that her only possession was a small shard of red glass that she'd salvaged from her bombed-out house. At the camp, she kept it hidden in a pocket and planned on one day piercing the heart of a guard. She never did, as far as I knew. When Mom first announced that her Bosnian war refugee great-aunt was coming to live with us, I'd pictured a skeletal woman in a shawl, deep half-moon shadows beneath haunted eyes. But Dika came with mounds of flesh and cheap jewelry and a wardrobe of tight turquoise shirts, white capri pants, peroxided hair. She inserted herself into our lives loudly. I wasn't completely convinced she was even our relative. I went to the pool with her, dragging my feet. I had nothing better to do. I hardly ever saw my only real friend, Jasmine, anymore. Jasmine was the reason I spoke Spanish. Her parents were Mexicans, old friends of Juan. We'd hung out together since elementary school, and she'd stayed friends with me out of habit. And then in the 9th grade, when Jasmine got a scholarship to a private school and started working as a camp counselor in the summers, she might as well have moved to a different planet. She'd drifted away and found replacements for me, but I hadn't found anyone who came close to replacing her. At the pool, I mostly sat in the shade reading and watching Pablo splash around, worrying my skin would break out in a sun rash. Mom blamed my mysterious rashes on the fact that I had been a premature baby. I did feel sometimes that I wasn't fully formed, like that Native American story where white people weren't fully baked in the ovens, so their clay never reached the proper brown color. My body was more underbaked than most, and all the Tucson sun did for it was make it pink and bumpy. My spirit felt underbaked too. Most people seem to have a hard outer shell that protected them from mean people, insults, bad memories. I was not one of those people. I wore long sleeves and long skirts, and not just because of the sun. Mom's friend from Saudi Arabia veiled and draped herself in black, only a slit for her eyes. She told me that her body was sacred and shouldn't be exposed for all eyes to see. I liked the idea of living behind so much fabric. It would be a comfortable feeling. I usually wore a big t-shirt at the pool, taking it off only to dip myself in the water a few times. And this only after spreading myself with so much sunscreen I left an embarrassing layer of grease on the water. "Look at this," Dika would say when we got in the water. She left a slick film of oil too. "My poor boyfriend. He must to clean up all this grease." "We shouldn't even be here, Dika. It's illegal." "My boyfriend invites us. He is boss of the pool." He wasn't exactly the boss of the pool. He was the maintenance man. One afternoon, a few months after Pablo arrived, we'd been cooling off in the water while Pablo did flips between us. We were arguing, as always, about whether we should be using the pool. The maintenance man, meanwhile, slowly picked out leaves here and there. Dika reasoned. "Sophie, no one uses this pool. We are only ones. Whoever made this pool would be too happy that some people uses it. And that poor pool man, he doesn't have job if no people uses it." The pool man was a short, stocky man from Mexico, I assumed. Brown skin, a polite smile. We saw him fixing things sometimes, leaving an apartment with a case of tools. Dika watched him closely whenever he was around. She made a show of applying baby oil to her legs, rubbing it on the folds of flesh hanging over the bikini, made a point to check the tan line of her giant bosom as he raked the water's surface with his pole net. This day, he was hovering by the pool, waiting for us to get out of the water so he could clean it, yet pretending he wasn't waiting so we wouldn't feel rushed. I got out and dried off. "Let's go, Pablo." "Come on, Dika." "Always you are rushing, Sophie. Rush, rush." She lumbered up the pool steps, and then her foot slipped. I think it really was an accident because I saw the shock in her eyes and how her chin jarred as she fell. Within seconds, she'd recovered and decided to milk it for all it was worth. "Oh, my God, my leg." She sat on the step, clutching her thigh, massaging it. The pool man rushed over and crouched down beside her. She looked at him with the designed bashfulness. She actually fluttered her eyelashes. "You are okay, miss?" he asked in a thick Spanish accent. I could see her mind at work. Miss. He must have noticed she had no wedding ring, or else he just thought she was very young, or else he was deliberately complimenting her. He helped her up, walked her over to her chair as she pressed her body against his, coating his shirt with oil and water. He crouched by her chair and she bent her leg. "Look at it," she moaned. "You think it would be okay? You see Bruce?" He looked at it and swallowed hard. "He's good, I think. Very good." I saw the corners of her lips curve up. An hour later, they were still talking in a mix of Spanish and English. "Children, I must to let my leg rest more before I walk home. Mr. Lorenzo helps me. You go." And that is how Dika snagged the boyfriend whose son would change my life.